What's the haps? I'm Meroka, and today I want to give you my professional gaming opinion on the Magnificent Trufflepigs. This game got my attention, as I suspect it did for so many, by virtue of having a wonderfully quirky name. What on earth is a Trufflepig? Click. It is, as the Steam description will ably tell you, a first-person romantic metal detecting game. It is, as I would describe it, the answer to the question, what if Firewatch were English? No, in fact, scratch that. What if Firewatch were the Archers? Okay, now I've successfully alienated my foreign audience and delighted my British audience. Let's head in. It's basically a walking simulator. The lead designer is Andrew Crawshaw, the same guy who did Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, which I honestly didn't play on the back of criticism that it was painfully slow-paced. As is typical of the genre, it's very narrative-heavy, so I'll try and keep it spoiler-free, but I think it is by its nature the kind of thing that's very tricky to discuss without spoiling it a tiny bit. The game sets the stage with a frantic late-night phone call by a woman named Beth, who ropes her friend Adam into helping her with some unfinished business at a farm. It's got a weirdly ominous tone, which then vanishes immediately as you step into the role of Adam, are given a metal detector, and told you're going to scour the farm together looking for a very specific earring. And then you do. That's the game. Walking around an English farm, metal detecting for an earring. You also have your phone to document your finds with, and a walkie-talkie to chat to Beth with as you work. Which is where the Firewatch comparison comes in. It's a lot of wandering around, discussing things, and making banter with a woman you never get to see, only ever hear. It too is a very pretty slice of world to wander around in, albeit a touch different from the Wyoming wilderness Henry found himself exploring. I can gladly speak from personal experience when I say that the Trufflepigs world is a very charmingly authentic, yet incredibly non-specific, slice of the English countryside. It could easily be set in the Yorkshire Dales or Lake District, with the rolling hills and endless dry stone walling, but the discussions of Stanning, the nearby village, also gives me vibes of Sanford from Hot Fuzz. Take every stereotype of English rural life, and it's Trufflepigs. The game plays out over 5 days, and you're given a different field to search each day. Each day except the last has a morning and an afternoon session. You walk the fields, and a little radar at the top tells you how close you are to a treasure. When you hit the right spot, you'll be prompted to dig it up, or just pick it up in the couple of instances you find something that's not buried. Sometimes it'll be something interesting-ish, and you'll chat to Beth about it. Sometimes it's not even something worthy of discussion, and sometimes it's something to drive the plot forward. Beth's got a bunch of life stuff going on, you see, and Adam's here to help her work through it, ostensibly under the guise of digging holes, even if no one will admit it. After you've done a few things, you'll be asked if you want to get lunch or end it for the day. You can press on for a little bit more in the name of completionism, but you can't go forever. Your detector's battery runs out and you're forced to carry on with the story. Dotted around the landscape are various landmarks and things of interest. If you look at one for a couple of seconds, you'll take a photo of it with your phone and send it to Beth to talk about. They're not necessary at all, but it all adds a little more flavour to the world and the story. If I have any gameplay gripes, it's that detecting things seems oddly inconsistent, as though targets can be different sizes. Sometimes you'll walk straight over the object and boom, dig it up. Other times you can hover back and forth over the same spot repeatedly, trying to find the exact electron that they want you to point the detector at. I had this issue on my second discovery, and I spent a lot of time raking through the key bindings trying to figure out if I'd misunderstood the tutorial, and was I supposed to be manually digging it up somehow? Nope, some of them are just super fiddly to find. I'm also quite certain that the locations of things are constantly randomised. You can be scanning along, not finding anything when Beth stops you to talk about something, and once you're done you re-equip the detector, only to find that you're now standing right on top of treasure where you weren't before. This happened to me 3 times. Once wasn't even a conversation. I put the detector away to have a look at something, and when I was done, there was magically more stuff under the ground. Given that the game tells you right at the start the best way to detect is to work in lines across the fields, it just makes you feel like a bit of a dummy for trying to stick to that if you do. I'm sure it works if you're detecting in real life, but when the magic treasure fairies are rearranging things under my feet, why bother? I can't say I'm in love with the little continue prompts after every single line of dialogue either. Try as I might, I cannot figure out why they're included. Character says line, continue appears, then there's a very short timer to press the button, only like a second or so, before it moves on and the next line is delivered anyway. If you were required to press it every time, allowing you to effectively pause the conversation, it would make sense. But since it plays anyway, all it achieves is allowing a really engaged player to move the conversation along a tiny fraction faster than it otherwise would. I think the devs are considering removing it or adding an option to, but I don't know why it's there in the first place, honestly. Okay, now I have to do a merry little linguistic dance around the story because it concerns the ending. One of the things that bother me throughout is that there are no character models. You never see either Beth or Adam, and certainly not anyone else mentioned in passing. This is in spite of the fact that Beth keeps telling you that she's covering another field. It's not a big farm, I feel like we should see her. Then they stop for lunch and have a chat, but it's in the car every time. On a glorious sunny afternoon on an idyllic hillside. Have a picnic, guys! There's even dramatic camera angles of the car to match the conversation when things get, well, dramatic. It feels like it would be good cinematography if we weren't still looking at a parked car. All of which has the resulting effect of feeling like the budget wouldn't stretch to character animation and models, so they just sort of hand-waved it away with walkie-talkies and lunch in the car. But, and there's a big but, and you know I like big buts and I cannot lie, but there is a reason for the weirdness. I think. There's a twist at the end, and they're not explicit about it. It's a little bit subtle, to the extent that I'm not actually sure, fairly sure, but not 100%, that my interpretation is the correct one. But if it is, it does genuinely kind of explain why the whole game is delivered in this rather weird way. And then at least the completionists who need to dig up all the things in New Game Plus can have the satisfaction of knowing why it is the way it is. It certainly hasn't eluded my attention that Everybody's Gone to the Rapture pulled the same thing. Oh hey, here's a story that conveniently has a reason why you're not allowed to see anyone, so it's just a radio play set in rural England. No, the Archers, I'm not talking about you! I'm not sure whether this consistent design decision is a deliberate artistic choice, but I'm sure Thunk's finance department are very happy with the decision. Maybe the character animation budget all went on the vocal talent. They make a big deal about Adam being voiced by Arthur Darvill, who was in Doctor Who, don't you know? And Beth is voiced by Lucy Fish, who was in, actually nothing I've heard of. To their credit, they do play their roles well. Fish makes for a very convincing middle-class heir to the family business. There's not nearly as much to Adam as a character, it's very much the Beth show, but Darvill still manages to sell the role as Beth's rather passive, easygoing friend. Ultimately, I did enjoy my time playing the Magnificent Trufflepigs. In my professional gaming opinion, the mechanical niggles and odd storytelling design don't otherwise take the shine too much of what's honestly a fairly pleasant couple of hours wandering the British countryside, shooting the breeze about the stresses, strains, and joys of love, family, friendships, and work. It's still trying really hard to be Firewatch on a budget, though, and I cannot stress enough that Firewatch was really good. If you haven't played Firewatch, I'll recommend that first and foremost. If you have, well, Trufflepigs isn't that, no. There's still some very pleasant time to be spent in Ambridge. Stanning. Thanks as ever to my lovely channel members Weirta, Tulkas and Silent Evan for putting up with me making references to British light entertainment. If you'd like to see your name in the credits with them, consider becoming a channel member by hitting the join button below. Also, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and if all the Archers references went right over your head, feel free to leave a dislike instead. Either way, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.